And we're back here on Stranded, and I'm chatting live in the studio with Lana Petrie from local band Synthcake. Lana, I first saw your band, I just realised, at your very first show in 2010. We'll get to that, but before that, I know you have a properly trained musical background. You're a jazz vocalist, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if you could tell me about how you got into that in your training.
So, I was actually going to Kwalin College studying psychology. And I kind of had one of those moments where I realized that if I focused on psychology and went to school and, you know, went to UBC and all that I would kind of lose my true passion, because I feel like I would have to be so focused on one thing that, you know, I would just be singing in karaoke bars and stuff. And that wasn't enough for me. I'm not saying that if you go to school you can't. You can't have a band. I know people who've done it and done well, but I'm just saying for me, I knew that I needed to really focus on music. So my brother was going to music school studying classical guitar, and that kind of inspired me, and I decided to go, and it's the best decision I ever made. It was just like, as far as the people that I met have changed my life from going there, but like the program, I learned a lot. Just my mind just opened up so much regarding music, not just voice, just everything that I learned there just blew it, you know, once it all comes together and makes sense in your brain, you just have this deeper understanding of music as a whole. Any musician who's ever curious about going to VCC or learning more about music in like more depth, and I always pretty passionate about that.
And so you ended up specialising in voice, jazz singing, yeah? Yeah,
I studied vocal jazz, and that was really neat because I didn't know too much about jazz, as far as I just, you know, I knew what I'd heard growing up and everything, but learning about it, you know, the history of jazz and, you know, actually what a jazz standard was, I didn't really know specifically, you know, I just knew kind of the most popular jazz songs, but... So yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, I kind of miss singing jazz music. It'd be fun just to go to just do a jazz gig, but it's just been so long. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the expression certainly comes out in your voice.
I picked up on it when I studied jazz, for sure.
Yeah.
Singing jazz every single day. It's bound to seep into your style in some way.
And so, bands prior to Synthcake, I know you formed in 2010, which is relatively recently. So, were there any other bands prior to that in the city?
Yeah, I started out with a band called The Rub. I met Adam, the lead singer and composer of The Rub, at VCC, and he went there and basically handpicked a bunch of musicians for his band. And when he asked me, I was just thrilled, because it was always I just had never been in a band before, and it was just the most exciting thing for me at that time. When I heard his music, I was just blown away. It's just way better than I thought it would be. He's really talented, so I was so excited. And so we were called The Rub for a long time, and then we switched the name to Like Animals again. There's a lot of The Rub. And then, we went through a few changes with members and some growth in the band. I started playing synthesizer, and that was a huge thing in my life, but you know, I ended up transitioning me into writing on the synth
and inspiring the name of your current band. Yeah,
exactly.
And that does bring us up to 2010, when I first saw you play with both of those bands, Like Animals again and Synthcake, at the legendary show at the Grave Level House.
Yeah, such a good show.
It was.
Best day.
It was extraordinary. This, for listeners, this was a house that was due for demolition, and a whole bunch of local musicians got together and just had a full day festival. I guess there were close to a dozen bands. And
best. Just, all day. I remember I got there, I think at noon, and I sat down and we were watching, I wish I could remember right now what they were called, but I think it was one of Sean Ramsey's, groups that he just put together. I can't remember the name, unfortunately, right now, but it was some psychedelic noise group, and it was awesome. We were just sitting cross-legged, and that's how it began, and then it turned into this epic party at the end of the night where you could barely even move. Such a cool show.
And you've very quickly had a fair bit of success here in the city. You've released an EP, the Music Ophelia EP. a lot of gigs around town. Best of Vancouver and the Georgia Strait as well, which is pretty cool.
We got a feature in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was exciting. That was fun.
And in terms of the inspiration for the EP, I randomly just was walking through the library downtown, came across a book called Musicophilia by a gentleman named Oliver Sacks, and I just had to grab it because it's such an unusual title. I knew it was your EP, grabbed it and read it. And I wonder if you could tell me about how you discovered this book as well.
Right. That's a great book. It's very interesting. I think it was Christmas Eve a couple years ago. I was over at my friend's house. We get together every Christmas Eve, and I noticed that she had Musicophilia on her shelf, and it was a book about the brain and music. And I thought it looked really interesting, so I asked her if I could borrow it. I took it home, and the next day I opened up a Christmas present for my brother, and he actually had bought me the book, and it's just so bizarre to me because what are the chances? So I had two, that day. So I went back and I gave it back to her, and I immediately read the book, and then I don't know, just I wasn't really thinking too much of it as an inspiration as the fact that I just started singing Musicophilia over and over again, and I just quickly had my computer there and recorded it, and then I worked on an idea and finished the song.
Yeah, well, it's really a good catchphrase for a song. It's very hypnotic, and the first song off your EP, and it's definitely a book I recommend to folks, anyone who's interested in music, because it's basically, I guess he's a psychologist talking about how music is just so intrinsic to the human condition, and there's this whole movement now of, say, neuroplasticity of the brain and how different things are happening at different times and what music's literally doing to the cerebral cortex. And he talks of fascinating conditions where a guy is hit by lightning.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No musical inclination at all before that, and wakes up the next day and he's just a rabid musician and he can't stop for the rest of his life.
It's like so insane.
I know. So yeah, it's a really cool book. So that was the first part of my interview with Lana from Synthcake. She's a real joy to talk to, passionate musician, local artist here in Vancouver. And the second part of the interview, I get into asking her about influences and also her equipment, synthesizers that she uses, and upcoming recording projects for the band.
It wasn't necessarily anything like, I didn't think I'm gonna, I didn't even know what I was doing, basically, like, as far as I just picked up the synth and just started writing, and it totally inspired a different kind of sound. I used to write on the guitar, kind of more folk music, and I never felt like I wanted to pursue that music because I just was being hard on myself because I knew that some of it was worth sharing. I just wasn't ready to really say this is me, And so when I started just fiddling around on the synth, there was a song that popped out, Dancing Brain, which is on the EP, which was my first Synthcake song. And I recorded it. I was just having fun, like just experimenting. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just using GarageBand. I didn't even have a preamp or anything, so the quality was just like right off the mic on the computer and stuff. I remember showing it to Adam. He's the first person that heard. Adam, he's in Synthcake as well, for the first time, and I was just like shaking because I was just like, I had never done anything like that or shown anyone anything that I'd written like that. So it's kind of a big moment for me. And then I just it just kind of spilled out of me a few other songs. Red Raw was the second song. Solo I wrote after that, and Red Raw and Solo were actually inspired by those songs. Lyrically were inspired by my experiences in the Rub and Like Animals Again. So the EP is actually, most of the lyric content actually has to do with my experiences with music, which is why the title works so well.
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, pretty much every song is about music other than one of them, I think.
Yeah.
So it was neat. It was just being inspired by the sounds on my synthesizer, big one for me, which is really interesting. I never thought of that. I was always thinking you have to be inspired by some traumatic event or something. And yeah, I mean that does happen, and that is in my EP as well. But the sounds can really trigger some sort of inspiration in you. And so that's what I try to do sometimes when I write, is just find a sound that inspires me and the way it makes me feel, and try to express that. It's interesting. Yeah,
and that's exactly what, if you dig into that book, Musicophilia, talking a lot about that. Sounds just fire things off in the brain, just send you in so many different
places.
places.
All of a sudden, boom, it's just, you're somewhere else. Something's pouring out of you that you just don't, it's like, it's kind of out-of-body experience sometimes. It's really bizarre. Not always, but those are the best moments when you're writing.
And then speaking of synthesizers, for the technologically literate among the listeners, what is your synth? Is it a what model, what make, what?
My synth is a Nord Lead. I actually had my first synth that I bought for Like Animals Again got stolen, and I actually cried, not because of the money thing, but because I had bonded with that synth. And that was really, it was just like, that's, it was what created Synthcake was from that synth, right? So it was kind of this emotional thing for me. But then it ended up being a really good thing in a way, because I was forced to upgrade and I got a way better synth.
Yeah.
The Nord Lead is way more expensive and just sounds better. It just makes so much more sense, right? So, and I was going to upgrade, but it was just forced me to upgrade way sooner. I was just like, I have to get a synth. It took me months to find the right synth, because when you're buying an instrument, you need to have this kind of moment where you bond with it, where you just have this kind of spark, right? Sometimes I'd play synthesizers and it just wouldn't have the spark. There's just like nothing there. It's just like going on a date or something. Yeah. And when I played the Nord Lead. There was a guy named Sean from a band called Fax. He had one, so I went and tried his, and I had that moment, and I felt there's something, that there's a spark. Yeah. And I actually had looked at it before online. I was like, I'm not interested in that one. I don't really care, because it just, I didn't think anything of it, and then I went back, and actually it was way better than I thought. And Adam has an MS-2000, which is, I just think that's the coolest synth. I kind of have synth envy sometimes with that synth. Yeah. But it's nice that we have the different synths, because the tones are quite different. So it's good. It's good to have variation. But I almost got an MS-2000 because it's really, they're awesome. Air, the band Air. Yeah. German band. They use a lot of. There's a record, I think, where it's all MS-2000. I'm not sure which one, but. Right.
Well, there you go. That's for the technologically inclined out there. Cool. And this is a really cool EP. This is the Synthcake Musicophilia EP. 6 tracks. And it is the first of many recordings to come, I would think, because there's something in the works.
Yes, right? Yes. We're actually in the middle of recording our next EP. It's going to be a 5-song EP. And we're really excited about it. Because then it's basically, instead of waiting to write, 5 more songs and release a full length, we thought it'd be fun just to get it out there. And we're hoping to get a record and split the first EP and the second EP, so we can sell them on vinyl, and it'll be almost like a full length.
Well, that'd be a really great idea. Yeah. And still the same 4 core members in the band here, Adam, Chris, and Joseph?
Actually, Joseph just recorded trumpet. Yeah. He's in SSRIs and and Snuggles. Yeah. So he's a busy guy. Yeah. But now we actually have Christy playing trumpet and singing harmonies and playing Glock, which is really great. And Nathan as well, playing accordion and synth. So we had a couple new members since that first show. We were 3-piece for a while. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's really exciting.
That's fantastic, Lana. And any gigs we can look forward to coming up in the city?
Yeah, we have one coming up that Oswaldo from the Morning After show is putting on. He's been putting on this indie I can't remember what he's calling it, Indie Pop Vancouver, I think, on Friday nights at the Legion. So we're going to be playing with him and Rain on the Sidewalk, and Daniel Ruiz has a new band, I think, and I still have yet to hear the name of that band, but he's going to be playing with us as well. So that's on the 16th of December.
At what venue?
At the Legion.
The Legion. Great. So that's Synthcake at the Legion, 16th of December. And the Synthcake Musicophilia, a great Christmas gift, I think, for one and all, and some more music to look forward to in recorded form. So